What's going on? Welcome to this oil change video. Simple enough, right? Changing your oil. Well, I like to change my own oil, and the reason is because not only do I like saving a little bit of money, but I like to make sure that the proper stuff goes into my car. And the only way to make 100% certain is if you do it yourself. I'll be doing it in my 2020 STI, but this process is exactly the same for any car that you may have. But to go even a step further, because I'll be doing this myself every time that I need to change the oil, I will also be installing a Fumoto oil drain valve, which is going to make this 100 times easier in the future. So if you appreciate the video, make sure you give it a like and consider subscribing. And without further ado, let's get to it. We'll have to get under the car for this install. Now, a proper lift would be great, but I'm using ramps. And since these are not low profile ramps, I had to get fancy with some pieces of wood to avoid scraping my front lip. You can use a jack and jack stands as well. Whatever you use, make sure that you follow all of the safety precautions that may apply, and always have at least 2 points of support. I'm using a jack on the center of the cross member here as well for safety. This right here is the bottom cover or skid plate that we have to remove in order to get to the filter and oil drain plug. So let me give you a better look at the skid plate and all of the bolts and clips we took off. There are only 3 bolts, as you see here, one on the front right, one on the front left, and one on the center and the rear, and those are 12mm bolts. On the passenger side here, you can see there are 3 pop clips that we have to remove. There are 2 on the bottom and 1 further up in the wheel well, and of course the other side is a mirror image. And finally, on the rear here, there are 2 clips that we have to remove, and those can easily be removed by hand, and that's it. And although this is not ideal, it's definitely not hard to do. Since I'll be doing all of the oil changes on this car in the future, the plan is to replace this with an aftermarket skid plate that has access holes for the filter and the oil drain plug, like this one you see right here. And right here we have our oil pan, and the oil pan has a 17mm drain plug that we have to remove. A simple ratchet and 17mm socket will do just fine for this. And for the oil filter, simple oil filter pliers will make removing this easy, as you'll see. Removing the oil filler cap will make the oil drain out quicker once we remove that oil drain plug. We're going to put an oil drain pan under the drain plug like this, using our best judgment on the position, and to get it ready, we'll unscrew the main plug down here and also pop out the drain valve up here. Now we're going to grab that 17mm socket and ratchet and remove the drain plug. I'm fresh out of rubber gloves, but now's a good time to put them on if you have them, because it's almost impossible not to get your hands dirty with oil, as you'll see. Also, be sure to wear safety glasses and make sure that the engine has completely cooled down before changing the oil like this. So before moving on, let me go over the main reason for this video. I never pay for my oil changes. I have 3 vehicles, so it can add up. Plus, I like to ensure that the proper oil goes into my cars, so doing it myself is the only way that I can be certain. To make future oil changes much easier and cleaner, I will be installing this Fumoto oil drain valve, which will take the place of the oil drain plug I just removed. This particular valve is specific to the STI, but they have them for just about any vehicle out there. I'll put links to everything in the video description. This oil drain plug is a simple quarter-turn valve that never has to come off once you install it the first time. You can see right here that when you need to just drain your oil, you can simply turn this lever up here, wait for the oil to fully drain, and then close the valve. And then use the included lever clip to fully secure it until the next oil change. So let me put this down for a second. For the oil filter, I am using an OEM Subaru filter that I ordered online. And my favorite oil is this fully synthetic modal. This is some of the best you can get for your car, so it's what I always use. For this car, I needed 5W30, but all cars are different, so be sure to check out your owner's manual. Because the oil filter in the Subaru STI sits with the threads on top, we can actually pre-fill it with oil. On the regular WRX, this really isn't easy without making a huge mess, since the filter sits upside down. But for most everyone else, be sure to fill your filter up with clean oil, and then use some of that oil to lubricate the filter's rubber gasket like this. Okay, so now that the oil is no longer draining out of the oil pan, we're going to grab the valve and put the included washer on it like this, and then simply thread it by hand. When it goes no further, grab a 3/4 inch wrench and tighten it an additional 1/8 of a turn. It's important not to over tighten it. When you're done, put the lever in the closed position. The lever will fall into a recess here to prevent it from ever turning on its own, but we'll still add the lever clip to be extra careful. And now it's time for the oil filter. Sometimes you can remove them by hand, but oil filter pliers like these make it easy to remove. Now, I wouldn't use these to install the filter, just to remove them. When all of the oil is drained, we're gonna grab the prepared oil filter and screw it by hand. Be careful at first so you don't cross thread it. We're gonna just turn it until it doesn't easily turn any longer. And then we're gonna tighten it still by hand, an additional 1/2 to 3/4 turn. Do not use a wrench here. It's very easy to over torque it or even damage the filter itself. So with that, we're gonna replace the oil we took out. As you can imagine, your owner's manual will tell you exactly how much oil to put in your engine. This STI requires 4.3 liters and this oil jug is 5 liters total. Each mark on the left side here denotes a liter of oil, and in the center there's a sight glass to show you how much oil is left. So since I need 4.3 liters, I need to pour until the oil is right about here. One neat thing about this brand of oil is the easy pour spout. So now that I'm about where I need to be, I'm gonna quickly check for leaks, and since the car is slightly at an incline, I'm gonna lower it before I fully top it off. So let me show you what we're about to look at before we do. This is the dipstick, and no matter which car you have, it's gonna be something very similar, but make sure you check out your owner's manual, which is gonna tell you exactly what to look for on this dipstick. In this particular car, you're gonna have a low right there, and that F right there for full, and you're gonna see 2 little holes right there, denoting low and denoting full. And then you're gonna see a notch up above up there. So if your engine oil goes anywhere near that low, you definitely want to add oil. Between this hole right here and that hole right there, L and the F, is 1 liter. So my particular car takes 4.3 liters if you replace the oil filter. So if I put exactly 4.3 liters of oil in my engine, I would expect to see my oil at that notch right there. That's exactly what I put in, so I expect it to be up there. Now, it might be acceptable to have it somewhere in the middle right here, but ideally you want to make sure that your oil stays as close to the top without going over as possible, and definitely add oil if it gets anywhere near this bottom hole right here. That little notch right there just denotes your hot oil level, your maximum oil level when your oil is hot. But you never want to do this when it's hot. You definitely want to do this when your engine is cold. That gives all of the oil a chance to drain down into the oil pan so that you can actually get an accurate reading. So knowing that between here and here is approximately 1 liter, if you took the reading and the oil level was about here, you'd know to add 1/2 liter to bring it to full. So to get an accurate reading, first pull the dipstick out and clean it of oil like you see here, and then put it all the way back in. Now we're gonna pull it back out carefully, and the oil on the dipstick will tell us the level. On this side, it looks kind of messy and it's hard to read, but on the other side, the line is very clear. If the back and the front of the stick shows a different level like this, go with the lowest level. This is actually the reading a few months after the oil change, and with a performance car, it's always good to check on the oil often to ensure that you're not burning it. This oil level still looks the same since I changed it, partly due to the car having an air oil separator that returns the blow-by oil back into the engine. So now that the oil change is done, it's time to turn on the car and check for leaks. So let the car come to temperature and check for leaks before you put that bottom cover on. You don't want to discover that you left something loose and have to pull that cover back off and then put it back on there. So let the car come to temperature, check it all the way around. If you don't see any leaks, put the cover back on and you're good to go. Remember, everything that you saw in the video, there's links in the video description. I appreciate you stopping by. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, make sure you give it a like, consider subscribing, and I'll see you next video. Take care.